Hey guys, what's cracking? Godsman here, coming at you with another set of clan collection reveals. Today we got a lot of freaking hype reveals, dude. One in particular which I was sort of theorizing and felt like it was copium for the longest time, but it's not copium, guys. Anyway, more on that dude later. We'll save him as a nice surprise at the end, right? For now, let's talk about the reveal right in front of us, which by contrast, a lot of us pretty much predicted right off the bat, which was Leopold Reverse being the reverse unit for Great Nature. So yeah, Leopold Rivas, what does he do? Two skills. First one being an act on Van Circle, which allows you to lock a Leopold unit on rear, which could be either another copy of itself or original Leopold, mind you. And until end of turn, all cards discarded from your deck are treated as being the normal, trigger, and order card type. Talk about that one a little bit later. The second skill is an act. Once per turn, you counterblast one, discard the top card of the deck, basic lottery shenanigans, and you perform all the effects below according to the type. Normal unit. You peep top 5 of the deck, call 2 unit cards from among them to rear and shuffle your deck. Trigger unit. This unit gains a continuous skill which allows all of your front row to gain 5k power, and your Vanguard gets crit +1. Order type. Get an imaginary gift Excel. Yay V. Excel generation. Anyway, so what do I think of Leopold? I think this is a pretty freaking solid unit, right? This Leopold does a lot. Now, let me say straight up that Leopold's first effect is pretty sick, but there may be a misconception about it that I want to clear up. With regards to its own effect, you do get to use all the effects below because you get to use all the effects depending on the type. That's what it says, perform all the effects below depending on that card's type. With most of the other lottery cards though, such as say Math Tilda or whatnot, or just all the Isabel cards and prior lottery cards, those effects say perform one of the following below. So Leopold's first effect here allows you to essentially get your choice between the two. You get to have a pick of the litter. Regardless of what you mill being a trigger or normal or whatever, you get to activate either of the effects. You don't get to activate both though. That's the thing. Even though it's treated as all types, you don't get to activate all the effects because it still says performing one of the effects on all those other units. That's why Isabel's continuous skill says you can perform both effects for the perform one of the following effects. So that's something to note. The second effect though is still pretty wild, right? I do appreciate how these effects synergize with each other because it's very conducive of the Great Nature method. You need a lot of rear guards. So we fill them up, and with a lot of rear guards comes a need for space. You get an Excel for that, which also gets you a draw. And to combat the typical Excel problem, you give them 5k buff to the front row. That in particular is really important because one of the problems with Great Nature outside of versions such as Polaris and particularly Big Belly, you're running into the typical Excel issue of, oh my god, defensives hurt me real bad. And also, a lot of the grade 2s in Great Nature I noticed, they tend to have this sort of like self-buff skill, which puts them on the edge of a power threshold, especially since if you put them on an Excel marker, like you're putting them on the edge, right? Like they're almost at a magic number, but not quite. They just need a little bit more to edge them out there, right? Things like the Parrot could need a little bit more edging out. Things like the Spool Mary, although she won't be used in this deck. Also the new grade 2 for the Legion, they could use a little bit more edging out. So this 5k is just enough to get you to those crucial thresholds to optimize the kind of cards you want to demand from your opponent's shields. On top of that, let's talk a little bit about the Legion that came with this. The Legion synergizes quite well. Yes, it does require counterblast, like for a few different things, so you are going to be kind of counterblast heavy, but of course, with a lottery deck, you get to use the Lemur, and this helps ensure that the Lemur will get you a counter charge. So the Lemur can help. Just please draw the Lemur, because if you don't, you're going to run out pretty quickly. Anyway, The Legion is really cool, most in particularly because of the grade 2. The grade 2 synergizes with the discarding lottery type skill because it keeps on getting power buffs. That's cool. But on top of that, you can also search extra Leopolds, meaning that if, say, for instance, you're facing off against a retired deck, I don't know, it's Blade Master, Narcomi, something, you may not always be ensured to keep the Leopold that you have been locking to use its first skill. So by being able to add another copy of Leopold Reverse, you can bypass that problem by ensuring that you have another copy for your next turn. So that's a really cool synergy. Overall, Leopold Reverse is a really solid unit. I'm not sure how strong it's going to be in the competitive scene, mainly because the one thing I can see popping up is it doesn't have a very defined win condition. With something like Big Belly, it's swing big lots of times with big numbers. With some other versions, you could argue that there's like some sort of win con behind it. Like for instance, with Isabel, you can stack the deck and that can lead to devastating things with Math Tilda and whatnot. I guess also Polaris has its own kind of win con, which is the big beatdown. But with Leopold, it doesn't have the big beatdown kind of thing. It doesn't get super big, and nothing in a Leopold deck presumably is going to get that big most of the time. And it doesn't have guard restrict to go with it. It doesn't have a way of really enforcing this crit. So I'm not sure how well it's going to do. I have done some testing with it on my own since it's a few days old as of the recording of this video. And it does look pretty promising in terms of the resourcing aspect. It's got a lot of resources and it can really, true to the name, punish the opponent, but it doesn't have a defined win condition. That hurts a little bit, but still, pretty promising reveal. I think they did right by Leopold Reverse. Now moving on, the next reveal. And we're back. Yeah, look at it. Megacolony reveal, Giraffe Reverse. Yeah, baby, this artwork's sick AF, bro. The hype is real. In all seriousness, though, yeah, I think although it wasn't clear cut like Leopold Reverse was, Giraffe Reverse, a lot of us were anticipating this, and we were right to anticipate it. It just seemed like a pretty obvious choice. They'd just given us Giraffe himself, so much like with Ammon, it'd be only right to just give us his reverse form. Yeah, sure, he wasn't a limit break unit, but then again, Ammon also wasn't a limit break unit as well, so fair play to you, right? Let's see what he does. Does Giraffe Reverse live up to his hype from Megacolony players, and does he live up to that sick artwork? He does. Let's see why. Evil Armor Emperor, Ura Giraffe Rivase. 2 effects. First one is Auto on Van. When this unit attacks, you counterblast 1, and your opponent chooses 1 or more cards from their hand and calls them to the field as rest. Their auto abilities, of course, do not activate, as would be expected. If the number of cards in your soul, no, the number of cards your opponent called is less than the number of grade 3 cards with Giraffe in its card name in your soul, lock 1 of your rear guards and stand this unit. No, doesn't have to be a standing rear guard. Nice skill. It couples well with the second one though, which is Auto on Van. During your turn, when your opponent's rear guards are placed, lock 1 of your rear guards. Again, doesn't have to be a stand rear guard. And all of your front row units get power plus 15k until end of turn. Wowee. They did it, guys. Finally. A Megacolony boss that feels proper and significant. It's been a while. The original Giraffe felt pretty poggers, and this is just that on the next level. Let's talk about why. So I have been saying for a while, maybe not necessarily that much on this channel, although I probably mentioned it with regards to the S&M battlers, but Megacolony receives a lot of things in recent waves of support. They've got defensive options, they get utility, resourcing, stun, different ways in which they get support. The one aspect in which they just rarely ever receive support, but they so desperately need to patch up, is offense. They don't have strong power lines, and they don't have solid win conditions. Antlion was the only exception, but again, without strong power lines, Antlion's not going to get that big a lot of the time. Giraffe Reverse addresses that perfectly. This second effect is significant power-ups. Being able to give 15k increments to your front row is super threatening when A, you have a potential 3 standing Vanguard on like the horizon, and B, you also have an Antlion to deal with. Being a deck that is clearly centric on grade 3 cards in the soul, you can of course service the Antlion, and if for no other reason then just to do the Antlion effect, you could also just Soul Blast out a high class Mothling Soul. That is definitely possible. With this reveal, it feels a lot more apparent why we got the Battler's S&M. The soul charges are there in order to sort of quote-unquote sack in good grade 3 targets, whether it's your Giraffas ideally, or even if you get the Moth, as stated before. Getting in those grade 3s from the soul charges is really nice, and also pays for things like grade 1 Giraffas soul blasting ability. But on top of that, Battler S in particular actually feels like something you will want to run, not just could run, want to run in a Giraffa reverse deck. Here's the reason why. This skill is cool, but normally you're only going to really be proccing it one time, which is during the battle. But with S, which has the ability to force your opponent to filter out a card from hand to field and then draw, which yes, a filter is bad, that ability is now pretty good because you now are able to proc the second effect of Giraffa Reverse during the main phase, thus giving 15k power to your front row up front. This means S is hitting magic numbers. This means Antlion is already going to be pretty freaking strong. And this means that Giraffa is coming in like being a threatening Vanguard. That's very significant. So this tie-in with with S, particularly M somewhat too, but S in particular, is surprising and is refreshing. I have a new light on those cards in retrospect because of Giraffa Reverse. Now, of course, when it comes to the first effect, some people may not like the fact that it has a element of interaction with the opponent, right? Interaction is always dicey because we should assume as good players that the opponent is also going to think rationally and counterplay to the best of their ability. They're going to choose what is optimal for them, not for you. The thing is that Giraffa Reverse most of the time should have at least 2 grade 3 Giraffas in the soul, just by virtue of riding over regular Giraffa, and also the fact that Giraffa can suck up another Giraffa from the rear guard for the cost of its own effect. So in most cases, you should have 2 grade 3s when you're riding this. If you don't, then consider not riding this yet. The thing is that because it says less than the number of the grade 3s, in order to prevent the restand, at 2 grade 3s, they're going to need to call a minimum 2 from hand, which is essentially what Giraffa's effect was, Counterblast 1 to Hand Rip 2. This one is also Counterblast 1 to Hand Rip 2, albeit it doesn't paralyze them, but it still hand rips them. And this hand rip doesn't require you to suck up a rear guard, which is cool because it would mess up your formations. You should have a full field to lock back row and have a huge, nice attacking front row. Overall, this is just a hand rip that should most of the time start at 2, but then rank up from there. And if they don't want the hand rip, fine. Deal with a Vanguard that swings twice and doesn't lose drive and probably has an extra like 15, so it's starting out at like 27 base. That's pretty devastating. Yeah, overall, this is definitely an offensive option. There could be a little bit of tinkering with regards to what to run with it. I don't think Entry Scissors is something we run with it, and I do predict that countercharging could be an issue. Just please run the Moth for criminy's sake. You could also run the Butterfly Officer to suck up grade 3s, but I digress. Giraffa Reverse, amazing support. Lives up to the hype, lives up to regular Giraffa, lives up to this artwork, lives up to all of our hopes. So excited to play this. Now, moving on to even more hype reveals. See you there. Back at it again. Now, for those of you who've been keeping up with the schedules of streams and reveals, you would have known that we got the Tachikaze reveals. Yay! Pretty cool stuff here. We got the Baby Rex, the Tyranno Legend, and of course, one of the cover cards, Spinal Reverse. A mixture of classic units and a reverse unit that we all wanted to see coming and were rewarded for such. What do these guys do? Well, these are pretty interesting but explosive at the same time. So starting from the bottom, let's start with the new grade 1, which is Ancient Dragon Baby Rex. So Baby Rex has 2 skills. The first being an auto. When it's retired from rear circle while having an equip gauge and is retired by a card ability that has Ancient Dragon in the name. So in other words, your Ancient Dragon is retiring this while it has an equip gauge. That's the layman's terms. You Soul Blast 1 and bind this card. Search your deck for up to 1 grade 3 card, call it to rear, and shuffle your deck. For those of you who know old Baby Rex, yeah, this is supposed to call Tyranno Legend. Spoiler, but again, not really spoilers. Second effect, when your drive check reveals a triggered unit, you equip the top card of the deck. So keeping in with the Ancient Dragon strategy. Pretty cool. not true ancient dragon, just regular ancient dragon Tyranno legend. 2 skills. One is an auto, which is when it's placed on the van circle or placed on rear circle by the ability of an ancient dragon. So no, van circle can be a normal place. Rear circle place is only if you called via ancient dragon. This card's going to get +1 drive and 10k power. Then you can pitch a card from hand to choose a front trigger from your drop and put it on top of your deck. Oh boy. And then the second is an auto on van or rear. At the end of the battle that this unit attacks, you counterblast one and retire one of your rear guards to draw a card. Oh boy. Oh man, I'm gonna keep a tradition and just read off everything. Well, holy crap, there's so much I want to talk about here. Eradication Ancient Dragon. I thought it was Distant Ancient Dragon, but I prefer Eradication Ancient Dragon despite it, you know, conflicting with the whole Eradicator subclan name. Spino Driver Rivasa. A lot of Rivasas, and this isn't even the end of it. So, auto. When this unit is placed on Van Circle, draw a card, and then call a card from hand to RC. You perform that effect once. You may put a card from the top of your deck face down as an equip gauge for that unit. So that's the entire effect. Draw one, call one from hand, give and equip it. If you have Ancient Dragon Spinal Driver in your soul, perform it 3 times instead. Yeah. And that's not even the only effect. The second effect is an act. Once per turn, if you're at limit break, aka 4 or more cards in the damage zone, you counterblast one and lock to your rear guards with equip gauge. Again, they can be stand rear guards or not stand rear guards. Until end of turn, this unit gets continuous. If your drive check revealed a front trigger this turn, all of your front row with Ancient Dragon and their card names get critical +1. Oh my Jesus. So there's so much to say here. For one thing, yeah, there's clearly an emphasis on fronts here. And the reason why is because now we're seeing a tie-in between the Ancient Dragon playstyle and the true Ancient Dragon playstyle. So yes, they want you to run those fronts and they want you to get crits on your front row for those fronts. And they're so hard up about that, that Spinal Driver is going to make all your regular Ancient Dragons into true Ancient Dragons. And then by proxy, they're going to make all your true Ancient Dragons into super true Ancient Dragons. Nuts. And that's not even the end of it, right? Looking at this is essentially like the Spinal Driver effect, albeit during the main, it's during the ride phase. So you're not doing it as a multi-attack, but the amount of card advantage you receive from this is insane. If you're doing a lot of retiring, this is built back better. You just got 3 cards for free. Yeah, you got 3 rears for free, bud. That's incredible. And you get to equip gauge them all. Wonderful. Sure, the second skill is based behind limit break, but come on, dude. You're writing this after Spinal Driver. You're fine getting a limit break for turn 4. If you don't outright die, you're going to be at limit break. You should be anyway. I don't think people are going to prevent that from you at that point. You're so hyper aggressive. They need to do something about that. This is incredible. This is like the Vanguard for Ancient Dragons now, I feel. This plus regular Spinal Driver is just the lineup. But let's talk about Tyranno Legend. Tyranno Legend is what Spinal Driver Reverse is to Ancient Dragons. That like he is to true Ancient Dragons what Spinal Driver is to just regular Ancient Dragons. He is going to be your premier Van effect. He is just an immediate +1 and power, but then he stacks your front trigger Grit Bangle style. This just makes him optimal. Like, this makes him so good in a true Ancient Dragon deck. Not to mention, of course, for those of you observant, stacking a front works with Spinal Driver Reverse. No duh. Anyway, yeah, so with Tyranno Legend, you're able to, like, stack it Grit Bangle style and then get all those crits going for it and just also get this draw. Now, this may seem like an innocuous effect at first glance, but it's very good because it allows you to combo with the Regiment Dragons and whatnot. Just battle phase retiring in general allows you for multi-attack. Just remember that as the rule of thumb for Tachi decks. So this is also just insane support, albeit it is a grade 3, so you might have to get a little bit greedy with ratios if you run Spinal Reverse along with Tyranno Legend and regular Spinal. But that's why we have Baby Rex, because Baby Rex calls Tyranno Legend from the deck, as the old one would have, presumably. So yeah, you just call Tyranno Legend from the deck, and that qualifies as being able to called by the Ancient Dragon. That qualifies for that skill, so you get to do the Grit Bangle skill anyway. And of course, it's a fine rearguard because just like with a lot of ancient dragons, you get to equip itself when you drive check a trigger unit, which you've assured your trigger. So you will be getting those equipped. This is just such a power up, dude. These are hyper consistent, completely synergize both aspects of ancient dragons and give them not just nutty card advantage, but a valid win condition. This is just God hand, but better if you ask me. Sure, they're not as big, but you don't freaking need to be big. You've already got some amount of power, you've got a lot of consistency, and most of all, just crit is to the point where if your opponent takes any of these, they're going to be like near death, dude. They don't want that. That's just stupid good. Amazing. So yeah, I mean, I can't stress it enough. This could put ancient dragons on the map. I'll be real. We've already seen some French stuff with the Colonels, but mainly that's just by way of Spinal Driver being the most goated card in the clan right now, if you ask me. This is perfect support for that strategy. I don't know, guys. This could end up like being, if it wasn't already rogue, it's at least going to be rogue now, if not like a bit above rogue. Like, holy crap, dude. The ancient dragons could mess things up. They could tear up the meta a little bit. I'm just saying, I might be overhyping it, but my god, there's no downsides. These are just so good. Like, any Tachi mains out there, I'm gonna assume you agree with me here. This is just about as good as you could have freaking hoped. This is mother effing Christmas in the middle of summer, y'all. And speaking of Christmas and nuts, we're not done with the reverses. There's one more reverse to talk about tonight that was also revealed on stream, kind of a surprise reveal, and my heart, my aching, bleeding heart. I love it so much. See you there. Back one last time. So, final reveal, the one I reserved for last specifically, is yet another reverse unit. We're really backloading a lot of these reverse units, aren't we, in this set? Look at him. Look at him. Look. Spectral Duke Reverse. Or, to be more accurate, it's Spectral Dupe Dragon Reverse. Holy crap, I thought it was copium to hope for a Spectral Reverse, especially since he was meta up until recently. But it wasn't copium, guys. Bushy knew what we wanted. They read our hearts and our mind clearly, and they're like, we're gonna give you what you want. And my god, this artwork, dude. This artwork even trumps Giraffe Reverse's artwork, if you ask me. He's just... pretty magnifique, so cool. But for as cool as an artwork is, as Chrome Jailer teaches us, it doesn't always mean that there's a good effect. Fortunately, we don't have to carry that lesson over to here because it is a good effect. Let's talk about it. So, Spectral Dupe Dragon Reverse has 3 skills. Oh my. First one being a continuous. During your turn, if Spectral Dupe Dragon is in your soul, you get 10k power, and if your opponent's Vanguard is grade 3 or greater, it also gets a crit. Nice. So again, kind of an evolution of the Spectral Duke Dragon ride chain thing, except it's only during your turn, so you're not getting like a defensive bonus anymore, but it's, you know, more powerful offensively. Second skill, Auto, Van Circle. At the end of the battle, this unit attacked a Vanguard, you counterblast 1 and lock 3 rear guards. Note, not stand rear guards. Note that. Stand this unit and it gets drive -1. Okay. And then for the wicked cherry on top, third effect, Auto in the hand. At the end of the battle that your Vanguard attacked, if you have 5 or more damage, counterblast 2 and lock 3 rear guards. Ride this card as stand, and this unit's auto abilities do not activate until end of turn. Okay, well, Raging Fall Reverse, is that you? In all seriousness though, any of y'all who like Raging Fall Reverse, this is like him in sort of the Spectral Dukified way. He's pretty cool, but of course we're going to see, just like with Raging Fall, that there's a lot of cost here, a lot of CB potentially, and that can be a turnoff for people, but let's go through the steps, right? I'm a Paladin main, and I actually took Spectral Duke to BRO and made 9th place in the North American region, so I barely bubbled out of the top cut for BRO. I know what I'm talking about when it comes to Duke. So me saying that this card in particular is pretty good, let that carry some weight with you. Going over it, like just step by step. This continuous skill is cool because it is a restanding Vanguard. So having 10k power is significant. Sure, it loses the ability to be a pseudo force clan number, but when you want to finish the game with this, and you want to finish the game with this, mind you, that's fine. That is perfectly valid. I get why you do that. This is cool. This is great stuff. So, moving on from that, this is just essentially more offensive Spectral Duke skill. We move on to a restand skill. Now, immediately, it's going to look a little bit meh because you don't get the +1 drive like Old Spectral Duke does. You don't need it. Old Spectral Duke retires 3 rear guards. At first, when you're just going gung-ho with a bunch of rear guards, that doesn't seem like much. But over the course of the next couple turns, it could definitely feel like much. You might not be able to afford that crap. So, alternatively, you could just lock 3 rear guards that are already done attacking to stand this unit with -1 drive. AKA, you get to conserve your field advantage, albeit at the cost of less hand advantage. That's perfectly fine. That's already essentially what Raging Fall did in retrospect when compared to Raging Form. Form retired for more hand advantage. Fall maintains your field advantage. So it's a valid ride that way. Here's the big note though. We need to just really note this about this card. This second effect is not once per turn. You could counterblast 2 and lock 6 rear guards for 3 Vanguard attacks. And again, this Vanguard has like the PBO effect of just essentially being the cross ride that gets 10k in a crit continuously. That's something, dude. That can push the opponent to death potentially. This also isn't mentioning the third effect. Now, haha, yes, ultimate break. Oh, the joy. Ultimate break. It's actually better than you might think. Here's the thing. At first glance, you would think, oh yeah, just swing with Duke, maybe swing with Duke twice, and then ride over with this. Cool. 3 CB in order to get 3 Vanguard attacks. Yeah. I mean, versus 4 CB in order to get 4 Vanguard attacks, which was the sort of the Raging Fall thing. Like, this is pretty relative stuff. The thing is, though, you kind of have to keep something in mind. Yeah, sure, this CB2 is pretty tough, and I will admit, countercharge options are pretty sparse in the deck, so you're probably going to want to either run a lot of countercharges, or alternatively, keep your counterblasting solely to Dukes, and hope for Vortimers. One or the other, basically. Just I'm not sure which one to do. Unfortunately, I'm leaning more towards just try to maintain your CBs for Dukes, but I digress. This effect just accelerates things because not only could you just do this on top of Duke Dragon, but in theory you can also do this on top of a Duke Reverse. What that means then is you could get 4 Vanguard attacks for the price of 4 CB. Very much like Raging Fall, because all you have to do is just be on a dupe, swing 3 times with the dupe, as we've already mentioned, which is locking 6 of your rears and CBing 2 already. But then by CBing another 2 and locking another 3 rears, you're able to ride this from the hand. That's 9 rears. That is super late game, but then again, this is an ultimate break, so it is super late game. But you could, in theory, do it. You could do it. Now, will you do that a lot? No, but it is a potential 4 Vanguard attacks that can be done. But most of the time, you're just going to be doing 3 Vanguard attacks, but they're all having crit, they're all having power. When you put Hoel behind in order to give it like extra power buff, that's especially good because Hoel will be just a continuous 10k, 5k minimum, 10k most probably, to all of your Vanguard swings if you put them behind the Vanguard. So that's just a lot of pressure. Oh my god, dude, just taking it all in as a whole. Resources wise, he's a little bit rough around the edges, not gonna lie, but he deserves to be rough around the edges in that department because this can close out games so freaking well. Sure, in the absence of Percival, you're not gonna be getting a lot of excels, but still, I don't think you really need that many excels at this point. This has basically cemented Duke to being the Vanguard-centric gold Paladin deck. This is nuts. Now, how many Duke Reverse or you'll run is very questionable. You could just simply say, oh, well, there's 3 Percival missing from the deck.
soon to be 4 potentially.
So you just put in 3 to 4 of this thing, and you know, I can see that argument. I think your optimal ratio is going to be 4 regular Duke and 3 Duke reverse, and then probably also just some full Cavaliers on the side. So maybe like a 4-3-3 split. That's a not so greedy ratio, and it's totally fine. Cavaliers are going to be more important than ever because it is a superior call for a Soul Blast, which is plentiful, and a Counter Blast, which is now basically dwindled and reserved for your Vanguards. So I am 150% going to make a deck profile. You can hold me to that. I'm going to make a deck profile on Spectral Dupe Dragon Reverse and how it affects this game, how it affects this freaking deck once I do some testing with it, some quality testing, some one-on-one time between me and Duke, right? You know, because after I transitioned to Revengers, we need it. So that's gonna do it for today. I mean, holy crap, it was just a sweep of reverse units, just 4 different reverse units back to back, and they're all solid. I swear, I can't stress enough that this clan collection has been a cut above from the other clan collections thus far. The other ones are arguably just setting the base, whereas these are improving upon them, and I will give credit for that. But just by very virtue of the fact that it is improving upon them means just in of itself that this set has been very hype, and great ceiling is presented in a lot of these units, except FX Buster Extreme, of course. I am happy, and I hope you guys are happy about this too. We're heading into the end game. Link Joker has been confirmed for the Tuesday stream next week, and we're going to get Fromage Reverse for the Thursday stream next week. And so aside from that, what are we looking forward to? Well, you got Shadow Paladin and you got Aqua Force, of course, the goated more favored clans in this game, right? Aqua Force being a more debatable one. Just coming into the end here, there are so many things to look forward to, and I am going to look so much forward to being able to analyze these cards with you guys and giving you all the news on what the good stuff is. If you'd like to see more Vanguard content like this, do subscribe down below and check out some of my other videos. I just released a fight night just prior to this that you might want to see because low-key it's pretty hilarious and features a couple of cards that were released earlier in this set. So yeah, go ahead and check it out. And even if not, just subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you can see when the next reveal video is, and see whether or not Fromage ends up being good. With that, take care. God bless.